man. Commie killer.
Oh man, that's it, man. I'll tell you what, dude. That's I love it. Love it.
Fuck yeah.
Hey man, rocking American flags, commie killers, shit. That's
fuck yeah. So everyone listening to this is did I say your last name right, Kesel?
Yeah, you got it right.
Right,
You're
beautiful.
one of a few.
Beautiful. JR Kesel. You came on like 2 weeks ago, and we talked about I think we titled it a mob-based upbringing and your relations to all that stuff, indirectly or asymmetrically, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And I know you got some more stories, and normally when I have a guest on and I've like read their book or something, I can kind of give a preface to, but I have no idea what the fuck we're talking about today, so I don't really have much of an introduction. So take it away, my man.
Well, you know what? Hey, man, start off, like my boy Comstock, I got my American Badass up here.
Fuck yeah.
My buddy Jeff Kyle, his brother Chris Kyle, American Sniper, two of the greatest guys in the world. I never got to meet Chris. Jeff is an awesome person. And anyway, man, anybody gets a chance, go hit up the American Valor Foundation. And good organization, man. It's run by the Kyle family. And Chris's parents and Jeff, they run a tight organization. So anyway, man, look here. And by the way, Dale, I'm going to give you a review on Amazon one of these days. When
you better, man.
On the book. I got the book like fucking 3 years ago.
I'm making a note right now. But yeah, so we kind of got into some crazy stories last time, and you said you had more today.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to guide it, so I'm just going to give it over to you, man.
All right. Well, look, man, I got to thinking last time I was all over the place, I'm jumping from 3 years old to my end of the life. So, I'm going to kick it on back to, when I was a kid, my hero was my dad. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The old man, wherever he went, back then we didn't have to worry about fucking child seats. So, you're standing up in the front seat of the car and, you're pimping like the old man. And one day, this is back, late 60s, probably about 68, 69. We pull up to a liquor store. He's seen one of the detectives he knew, a guy named Leroy Buster Landrum. Leroy was like my uncle, dude. He was a hard ass son of a bitch, man. Seriously, old school gangster cop. The old man nodded at him. He nodded at the old man. Dad told me, said, we're going to sit here and wait a minute. So apparently Buster was waiting on a couple of junkies, and they come out of the liquor store. And man, I'm going to tell you what, if you see these movies where the cop's sitting there just pistol whipping the living shit out of somebody, it happens. It's legit. Now, Leroy was not a very big guy in stature. He wasn't no 6'2", 6'3". He was average height, probably 5'8", 5'10", somewhere in there. But that man was a vicious brute. He beat those guys. And my old man told me, he said, that's what happens when you get on the wrong side of the law. And I'm thinking, this coming from a guy, now I'm looking back later in life, this coming from a guy that killed people for a damn living. So, it was things like that. The old man still, during his time, until he did get out, Tommy, he was still running the bookie, betting off the book betting. And shit, man, on Sundays, that was his thing. He'd get up, nightclubs, everything. He'd hop in the car. Here we go. Start hitting all the bookie joints. And, there's nothing like being with your hero, following him around, doing all this stuff. And as a 6, 8-year-old, you really don't get a concept of what's going on. You're just hanging out with your dad.
Yeah.
And that's some of probably the best times of my life. I can't really complain about it. I mean, you grow up, you learn things, and you see things that you probably shouldn't see at that age, but it is what it is. I mean, there was countless times. I mean, hell, we'd go to places and hell, they'd prop me up on the bar and I'd sit there and watch the games with the guys, just like I was a grown ass adult. And, those things like that still stick with me to this day. I'm going to get to something here in a minute that would probably get an adult thrown in the penitentiary for child abuse or whatever. But there was a place there in Galveston called the IQ Newsstand. Now I'm going to give you a little background on it. It was just what it was, newsstand. Pretty good sized place, but back then they had pinball machines, you name it. They had all the weird stuff that a newsstand shouldn't have, but they had it. And in the back was where the hardcore ass old gangsters were. I mean, that's where the shit was happening. So he would, like I said, load me up. Here we go, and go back there to the back of the, it's called an Urban Queen. That's what the IQ stood for. And it's no longer there in Galveston. They tore it down a long time ago. But the fact, that you go around these guys and you're looking back now and realizing that there was a lot of stone cold ass killers there, guys that were making big money, guys that were losing big money, guys that just didn't give two shits about life one way or the other. And we just had, had a lot of, I guess, family time, if that's the way you want to call it. It was family time for us. So I'm talking about Buster just a few ago and brutal ass cops. My grandmother, Dad's mom, passed away in 1972. Say about 1970. The Serbian clan there in Galveston, they all immigrated in after 1900, so they're getting older, passing on. It seemed like a funeral every week. And as you said yourself, you was an altar boy, so you know what it's like to be in church and have to go to these things and be at them. Well, it was just a regular type deal for me. And one of the family had passed away, and my grandmother, who was, I want to say, in her early to mid 80s at this point, she always, like little old lady, carried her purse on her arm. She's tootling along there. And on 61st Street is where the Serbian cemetery is. Man, why? For whatever reason, I had no idea. But this clown decides he sees a mark. He's going to take off running, and he's going to snatch a purse. Now, you take that with a bunch of grown-ass gangsters, a bunch of grown-ass cops standing around. He got a hold of the purse, and he drugged my grandmother to the ground. Now, being as young as I am, hell, it's like, altar boy, you're not getting involved in anything. You're just sitting there like, what the hell's going on? My dad and my uncle take this guy. They get him off my grandmother. And Tommy, they should have dug a hole for him out there at the cemetery. I mean, they beat this son of a bitch to a pulp. Now, you got a detective and you got a damn gangster beating the shit out of a damn criminal. Two brothers protecting their mother. Mm-hmm. And that's the way family is, man. It doesn't matter what, family's family, and especially when it's your mom or your dad.
Yeah.
And, it was just stuff like that. So it was nothing uncommon to, I'll give you another one. Uncle Louie, the detective, hell, on his days off, he'd swing by the house, check up on me. For whatever reason, he was always checking on me. I think it's because I was always getting into trouble and shit. And when the old man wasn't there, he was coming by and checking up. Well, one day he comes by and mom's there. My aunt Natalie lived next door. And you hear all this damn commotion. Well, a couple houses down, the neighbors scream, somebody's in my house. And they took off running. Well, this guy decides that he's going to do this shit, but he's going to run across the front yards, and he goes underneath my parents, which everything down there in Galveston is all pier and beam where we live. So he goes underneath the house. My uncle looks at my mom and says, "Have you got your piece?" She reaches in her back pocket and she throws him her pistol. Now, for whatever reason, Louis didn't have his damn pistol on him that day. I have no idea. He goes underneath the house. You hear the goddamnest commotion you've ever heard in your life. This guy is screaming and hollering. Louis dragging him out by the hair of his head, pistol whipping the shit out of him. And he thought he was going to break loose and get loose and run. And when he did, my aunt grabbed his ass and tackled him. And Louis got him again. Well, they called for a patrol unit to come and get the guy. And, it's just like, damn, mom's carrying a gun. What the fuck? I know dad carries one, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Are you ever concerned that things that like you grew up with, are those ever going to come back to you? Like, like your mom, like you said, your mom like shot like a notorious gangster. Are you ever and in my sheltered suburban mind, like the mob doesn't forget. Is there anyone that's ever going to come back decades later and they're just like, fuck you?
After we had our conversation a couple of weeks ago, honestly, like I said, you're the first person outside of my wife and just a small circle of family that any of this has ever been discussed with. I mean, it's just not, it's just not one of those things that, shit, man, I've been carrying this stuff with me for damn near 58 years. So to answer your question, after talking with you last couple of weeks, that shit has kind of run through my mind. But 2000, I'm going to throw back for a second to something my mom said. In 2008, Hurricane Ike hit Galveston, and it tore that island up pretty bad. The East End more so. And when all this news is coming through and we're watching it up here, we're listening and everything. Mom made the comment. She goes, well, it's a good thing that the majority of those people are dead now, that your dad was, doing whatever to, for, with, because the old man, she said, the east end of the island is where he would take and bury people.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, and my wife, Donna, she's like, what the shit? And mom, I mean, you could tell my mom, like I said, she was an alcoholic, but she had her moments of clarity. And that was one of those ones. And, looking back from the past and things that have happened with the family and everything, I don't think that she would just have said that out of the clear blue just to see, hey, let's see if we can get a rise out of him or what. I mean, it was, and I asked her again, I said, are you, because it was just maybe 2 weeks after Ike had hit, my aunt Donnie had passed away. So we went down there, and me and Donna, we drove down to the East End. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'm going to see a femur or tibia or something sticking up out of the dirt down here in the dunes. And, we got back, and I asked her, I said, were you legit serious about the old man? As far as where he was buried? She said, no. She said, she goes, when your daddy bought his way out, she said he killed 3 men. He took them, he buried them on the east end of the island. And she said, that's how he got his way out. Which the old man was full. No, go ahead.
When you said buy his way out, was that, was that like a final favor he did, and that's how he was like, he got out of the game?
Yes, yeah. Tommy, he was full-blooded Serbian, so naturally he couldn't be a made man. He could never be. He could be part of a family, part of a crew, but he could never be a made man. Sure. That was his final buyout, and from the best I can gather from Mom, that was sometime around 71, 72, somewhere in there. He got the hell out, and I think he was still, you know, that old saying, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. I still think my dad did things. He would discuss the life, but you know, it's kind of like when you listen to The Rock on wrestling, he talks about The Rock in third person. Well, that's the way the old man was. The old man discussed things with me, but it was always like, you know, now I understand. He was telling me what he was doing, but I was always there, Junior. I was always there. You know, I was always there. A good example, there was a member of the family that was apparently, you know, one thing they frown upon is child molestation. You know, that's a bad thing. And the old man just happened to be there when the guy ended up taking the member to the back way, and he removed his member and testicles and choked him with it. There was a heavy price to pay for bringing undue attention to the family.
Uh-huh.
And I realized that with what the old man would tell me. But again, you know, you just see shit with like the old man when we go to the bookie joints. He'd leave me up on the counter and he'd go to a back room with somebody and they'd be back. You know, he obviously trusted anyone or where we went, because otherwise he would have never left me sitting in there.
Sure.
And I don't think anyone was stupid enough to try to do anything to me. So needless to say, you know, it was that kind of shit right there. Just you know, you really look. And Dad told me about when he was there at the Balinese room with Macios. Shit, man, you had Frank Nitti came in. He always thought, oh, he's bullshitting me. You know, Nitti ain't down here. And like Frank Sinatra and a lot of the big Hollywood types now. Galveston was apparently a huge place until late 50s, when the feds came in and just, the Macios ended up going to Vegas, and I believe it's Fertitas Fertitas married one of the Macio's sister, vice versa. So there was family connection there, and the Fertitas ended up taking over the island, what was left of the operations and everything. So the old man was still doing stuff. I don't think nowhere near to the magnitude of what he was back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. But yeah, it was crazy times, man. You know, go ahead.
Do you think, so for everyone that didn't listen to the last episode, talked about your mom was a woman of the night, and she had slept with Jack Ruby. At one point, Jack Ruby killed Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald killed President John F. Kennedy. And then your mom, she eventually killed a mob member, correct?
Mob member, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And your dad met your mom through just kind of that whole mob scene-ish nightclub, just kind of all overlapping.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you think your old man was involved or knew anyone involved with JFK? Because the presiding theory is, I think it was the CIA. Some people think it's the KGB. To me, it makes the most sense that it was the mafia, because Bobby Kennedy was fucking all of them over, and the mob helped JFK get in. Do you think your old? I mean, it's all done now. He's passed right. away. Do you think your old man had anything to do or knew anyone tangentially related with the whacking of JFK? I have to ask. I can't not ask.
Hey, look, man. You know, I mean, it's a legitimate question. You know, there's all kind of shit speculation that the mob was involved in it. I mean, Joe Kennedy went to the mob.
They were.
You know, Joe Kennedy went to the mob, and they were asking for help for up there on the East Coast on getting votes through the damn labor union and everything. And
Dad was a moonshiner. Yeah.
Hey, man, who had the sole import rights on the booze, man? You know, look, it's all about the Benjamins. So That's one of the things, Tommy, to be honest with you, I never asked. Now,
Yeah,
could he
I don't
have,
think you're supposed to. I don't think you're supposed
well,
to ask.
no. And, with the old man, he never really, like I said, he never really like openly just discussed the life. Um, there were bits and pieces. And as I told you on the last episode, when he was going to stab me with the damn ice pick, I mean, it kind of legitimized the fact that, my old man's a stone cold killer. Yeah. If he's willing to kill his 17-year-old son right here in the hallway by the kitchen, I really don't think anybody else, was of any concern to him. It was a job. Looking back, I've told Donna, I said, there's several times over the years I've had people come to me, ask me about, dude, you ought to write a book. You ought to, just start jotting this shit down and everything. And, my old man being a ninth grade dropout he had to be intelligent. He never went to jail. Yeah. Never got caught.
Yeah.
As he told me, never let your right hand know what your left hand's doing. So the only way you're going to get caught is now if you get on YouTube or Instagram and post it. But back then, it was your mouth. I wish I would have just sit down with him and asked him more questions and just tried to. I think he would have been open to talking to me as an adult versus some snot-nosed punk-ass smart-ass kid, teenager that's, oh yeah, my dad's a mobster, low key, keep it below the radar.
Yeah. I feel like, it's like the mob never forgets, but I feel like, if that was like a CIA conspiracy, I feel like the mob looks at the CIA the same way I look at the mob. It's like they're the ones, it's like they don't forget and everyone will die if anyone talks about it. They're also wildly intelligent individuals. James G. Sangleton, Alan Dulles, like these people aren't stupid. It's just got to be plausible deniability on top of plausible deniability. So maybe it wouldn't even be if your old man knew about it. He probably wouldn't know it's like the best CIA asset is the asset that doesn't know he's an asset. Like, I could be a CIA asset and I don't fucking know. Like,
yeah, but hell, dude, I'm gonna go ahead and spill my guts to you anyway. So now you got the beans on me.
Yeah, yeah. But what I mean is like, I wonder if he would even know. But I feel like if anyone would know, it's you're closer than most. I know we're coming up on 60 years. But if your dad did mob hits and your mom slept with Jack Ruby, dude, that's about as close as
you're
next door. You're rubbing shoulders.
Speaking of next door, hang on. You know what? We're fixing to have one for the old man.
I'll cheers my water to the old man.
Yeah, you don't want to pull a Don the Pleb the other one the other day. That's a lost episode. I can't wait to see
the lost episode. I don't know when that's going to be out. We got. That'll come out one day. The lost episode for everyone listening. It's a 4.5 hour episode we did. Me, Don the Pleb, and David O'Neill. We drank to John McAfee. That episode was the definition of going off the rails.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you what. That's there's more shit involved. The mob was helping back during World War II, as far as on the docks there in the ports. They were letting us know as far as the damn Nazis coming in or who was doing what.
Yeah, Nazi saboteurs. Yeah, Uncle Sam turned a blind eye, said, hey, you take care of the docks and we'll let a couple of your guys out of jail right after the war. They did. They let him out and immediately they kicked him off to Italy, but Uncle Sam kept their word. But there was, it was sort of a, you make a deal with a demon when you're both fighting the devil. And it's like Uncle Sam and the mob are going at each other, but, when there's fucking Nazis developing nuclear weapons and incinerating Jews by the millions, you kind of look both ways, and you're like, all right, you got the docks, we got the war. Like it's so there is that there is a history of involvement.
Well, what is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, it goes without saying that we've, we've let a ton of information, such as my dad. I let that slip through my fingers. I can't get that back. Obviously, I think me and the wife are going to be making a trip to Galveston to get with some old family members here pretty soon again and see what we can dig up. Now I'm gonna. I told you the old man was a ninth grade dropout, right? Spoke 5 languages fluently. He had the uncanny ability to learn whatever he put his mind to. He could pick it up and run with it. So, shit, man, let's kick it up about, I'm probably 10, going on 11, somewhere in there. So we're down at Joe Magliola's barbershop. Now, this is something I told my wife about, so I didn't want her to be completely, utterly shocked when this comes out. I'm going to take it. It was kind of a mobster type hangout because you always see these guys in the suits in there. They're getting their hair done. And I'll send you some pictures on the back channel of the old man. I mean, they never went anywhere without suits, brother. I said, it was just like, this was their daily dress.
Fuck yeah.
They were pimping 24/7.
Fuck yeah.
So I'm up there getting my hair cut, 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid, hell, I'm a grown man now, I'm thinking I'm some shit. Get up, he dusts your damn back off, slaps you on the back of the head. As we're walking out the barbershop, Joe fired off something to the old man in Italian. Now, I couldn't repeat it now if I wanted to because it sounded like me dumping a bowl of spaghetti on the floor.
Yeah.
Old man answers him back in Italian. And the door closes. We walk out on the sidewalk. And I said, what did Mr. Joe say? He goes, he wanted to know if I took you and got you bread. And I'm like, bread? I had bread for breakfast, Pop.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, come on, son. He said, we're fixing to go. You're fixing to find out what a new kind of bread is. Yeah. So he ends up taking me to the cat house, brother. I'm, like I said, 10, 11 years old. And, you got modern day warriors like Comstock and Ted Eye slaying bad guys. I'm 10, 11 years old, slaying ass, So the truth is out now. I, got laid at 10, 11 years old, somewhere right around there. And, I guess that's was my addiction. That's
yeah.
It's
But I feel like that was also more of like it was kind of with everything, right? It's the cop pistol whipping the junkies. It's your dad and your uncle pistol whipping the guy that tried to rob your grandma. It's the whole.
Yeah.
There's just a different. It sounds absurd now, but I mean, I think at the time it was pretty much like. I feel like that was probably pretty run of the mill. Your old man's a cool guy, and it's like, yeah, you get your son laid. It's just, I mean, these guys grew up, with World War II. There's a massive feeling of like tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Well, exactly, and as I said, him being born in 1912, and you did the math. That was like his birthday was like a week or two before
Titanic,
the Titanic sank. So he come up in a hard era. 1920.
So sorry. So yeah, your dad lived through World War I, the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, and World War II. Again, a lot of those guys became men, probably younger than 10 or 11, and maybe not even metaphorically. The first time getting laid. So much as you become a man when it's like, hey, a lot of kids, it was like, hey, you got to start working because you're not bringing, in the Great Depression, or you're working out on a farm or something. Or, I mean, you think of all the guys drafted. I mean, 14, 15, 16-year-olds drafted into World War I. I mean, there was a lot of literal and metaphorical. You became a man early on.
Yeah.
I mean, so these guys that are, you're out mowing down Nazis, or before they were the Nazis, they were the Huns or the Krauts. Right. I would imagine taking your 11-year-old son to go get laid was probably no different than like teaching him to tie his shoes. Like, we look at it as like this crazy thing. I feel like to them it was just like a, oh yeah, hey, you got to go do this.
It was a rite of passage.
It was,
I
yeah,
mean,
but almost
no other way.
nonchalant. It was just,
Oh yeah, I mean, it was like
thing.
Come on, I'm gonna show you a different
teach you how to
what he's
shave,
talking about.
teach you how to tie your shoes, and it's just like, hey, go fuck her.
Yeah, it's it wasn't some seedy ass little cheap shitty motel up on the seawall. It was a really nice, really really nice house there in Galveston, 2-story, and I mean, hell, to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you if I knew what the hell I was doing then or not, because more likely I didn't. I was going through the motions.
I still have no idea what I'm doing.
Dude, you know what?
No one has any idea what they're doing. The guy who says he knows what he's doing knows the least out of anyone. The reality is everyone's terrified. We have no idea what we're doing. We're just these stupid hairless apes just flopping on top of each other. You don't know what the fuck's going on. A couple people know what's going on. Nuclear physicists and maybe monks. Everyone else is just winging it. Sorry.
That's it, man. Shit. Just grab a hold and hang on.
Hang on, man. It is. But to me, that just makes me even more convinced. I think your dad definitely helped kill JFK, and I don't say that in a derogative manner. It's kind of epic. I mean, it's awesome.
This is one of them things where you go, well, do I think I'm just throwing this out there. Do I think he had anything to do with it? No.
Yeah.
Would it have been cool to find out later on that your dad was part of that shit? Yeah. But here's the downside to that. The conversation we had just a few minutes ago, are you ever afraid of something from the past coming up to bite you on your ass? The sins of the parent are paid for with the child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it would have been cool as shit. Now, he could have picked a different president. I mean,
yeah, that's the problem. JFK was a cool guy. He was a
he was a good
president. He was a good guy.
Hey, look, I'm just gonna call it out there. He was a pussy hound. I mean, yeah, he was a good president, but that guy was pulling like A+ quality fail.
That guy was a man, no different than any other man. It was just he was a high profile man. I'm not saying it's good, but I mean, side note, I don't know why he cheated on Jackie though. Jackie was hot as fuck. But
dude, look, it's not. Yeah. I'm gonna go on the record here. My wife, when we met, everybody told her he's a man whore. He's a man whore. He's you're getting with a man whore. And I was like, goddamn guys, come on, give me a break here. I'm trying to, do right. For me, it wasn't about quantity. It was about quality. I mean, you could have 500 ugly ass women and 2 beautiful. Well, you're not going to talk about the 500 ugly ones. You're going to talk about these 2 beautiful ones. And that's the way I've always been. But this woman I'm with now, David, I could sit here and look at you and countless others and, say, hey, man, I've been 100% faithful. And, that's, you finally find that one person you gel with. Obviously, my dad did with my mom, even though, now look, they didn't have the Ward and June relationship. I mean, sometimes it was volatile as shit. I mean, like I said, I told you earlier, my mom was a raging ass alcoholic, and they're coming into my teenage years. I mean, it was, get the hell beat out of you any day that ended in Y, as long as it wasn't Saturday and Sunday, because the old man was home. Once he got out of the life, he had to go take a normal job like every other schlub, like the rest of us do now. I mean, he had to go punch a clock. He was still involved with the Teamsters, but he was punching a clock. There was one day that, I'm getting some hair on my chest, face and everything. I think I'm grown and, enough's enough, man. You get tired of getting the living shit beat out of you. You got this, you have an idea where your mom's from and what's going on with her, but, you don't want to push the envelope too far, especially after you seen your mom flip your uncle a pistol out in the front yard one day.
Yeah.
But she's wailing on me one day. And when she did, I lost my shit. And I pinned her against the freezer in the house. And I said, that's it. Enough. You're not going to beat my ass any further. I go outside. I sit on the sidewalk. I'm going to tell your dad when he gets home. I'll fucking do you one better than that. I'll tell him when he gets home. He pulls up and he knows something's wrong. And you did not discuss family business in the open. You don't discuss. You got problems, you take that shit behind the door. You don't get out there and like these assholes on TikTok and YouTube and everything else. They want to post their damn family fights or this bullshit. No, man, you take care of family business behind closed doors. So the old man says, what's going on? And I'm trying to explain to him. Old lady decides she's going to cut me off. He cuts her off. I've very rarely seen my dad elevate to that level of shut the fuck up and mean it. That was one of them days when he told her to shut the fuck up. He meant it. And he listened to me, and he never even give her a chance to say shit. He looked at her and he said, you know what? He said, if this boy needs his ass whipped, you tell me when I get home. I'll whip his ass. He said, if you lay another hand on him, I'll fucking kill you and I'll bury you. Still, at that point, I'm 12, going on 13 right there. Now I look back later in life when Mom said the old man was burying people out on the east end of the island. I'm like, he meant what he said. It wasn't one of those just do it again, I'll kill you and bury you. He meant it. Mm-hmm. And she never touched me again. So, it's one of those deals where, you just parent, I guess parent has some sort of problem, which my mom's was alcohol addiction. And, obviously gangster addiction too, but she after that incident right there, man, she back smooth the hell off.
You can kind of see that pervading theme, and like we're talking about this entirely, like again, this different era, like pistol whipping, drugs, alcohol, getting laid. We look back and it's I look back at the where my parents grew up, and and then where their parents. You can always it's not a new theme. You look back and you go, oh, it was a different time, but you can sort of see that pervading theme where it's like you don't child molesters, or even in jail today, you see it, right? And it's because a lot of it, again, in my armchair psychologist, not that I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm wearing a cheetah hoodie. I don't know what I'm fucking talking about, but I'll be Dr. Tommy for a moment. You can almost imagine that, and perhaps in the kind of darker underworlds more so than the land of milk and honey and opportunity that I grew up in, you probably see a lot of these guys. A lot of maybe where they're from is from abuse, physical, sexual, psychological, growing up. And there's sort of you can give it to another adult, but it's that timeless thing of like, don't pervert like innocence. And whether it's sexual abuse or whether it's, again, if he's mouthing off, tell me, I'll kick his ass. But there is something like, just because you're an adult doesn't mean you have it all figured out. Like you said, your mom was an alcoholic and she was beating you. Maybe your dad saw it as like I can deal with you being an alcoholic. Like, don't take it out on the kid. Right.
That's a good analogy. I mean, that's shit, dude. You put probably 10 years worth of effort into that right there in a few minutes, where hell, I'd still be smoking brain cells trying to figure it out.
But that seems to be the timeless tale, right? Some sort of protection of perversion of innocence.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I told you earlier about the old man. He always was there, child molester, and they dealt with it. Funeral homes were obviously a big thing for the mobsters, the mob back then. I mean, get rid of bodies, do whatever. They had a family member, is what the old man said. They walked in, and he didn't tell me. Now, he did admit to this. They walked in, and they caught one of the made boys up there on a stiff. He's at necrophilia, bro. He's in there just pounding the living hell out of this chick. She's deader than a mackerel. The order for the hit was immediate.
Yeah.
I mean, the old man went back and reported to his boss, and I mean, it came down. He said it came down immediate because you don't desecrate.
Again, yeah,
body.
that's sort of you don't. But
the desecration.
Also, that just seems like an unhinged. Again, it's like you want cold killers. You don't want someone that molests a kid, because there's a difference between being like a cold killer, you know, someone in war who's not afraid to mow down who needs to be mowed down, as opposed to just like a child molester. That I was going to say desecration, but also I'm looking at, again, armchair Tommy. I'm looking at it from like the head of an organization. That seems like there's a couple screws loose, and you can't have that bleeding out into other things. And if this guy is cool with, clearly he was walked in on. So, I mean, like your dad not going to jail, you got to be smart enough to not get caught. I mean, it's one thing to fuck a body. It's another thing to get caught fucking a body. That's a guy that maybe today he's getting caught fucking a body. Tomorrow, does he get caught, you know, cooking the books? Does he get caught running his mouth?
Well, you know, the thing about it then was, I mean, you know, the old man said it countless times. He said, you know, even though we were bad guys, we still had morals. Yeah. We still had a code of ethic. Mm-hmm. Tommy is one of the things growing up. My old man told me, he said, look, son, he said, there's three things. He said, you're going to get out in the dating world. You're going to start chasing girls all the time. He said, three things you don't do. One, don't ever jack around with somebody's wife. He said, two, don't mess around with somebody's girlfriend. He said, three, don't mess around with somebody's, as they used to call them, trick on the side. He goes, because you don't want that guy coming up and putting a bullet in the back of your head. Now, I can sit and you know, sling a line of shit a mile long, just like everybody else. But I can also be honest, and I can honestly say I've lived by the, you know, everybody say, oh, it's a bro code. No, fuck that. It's not a bro code. My dad raised me with morals and ethics. There's things that if you did it, you knew you were crossing that line. So you better be willing to live with the consequences of it. And then there was shit you better not do. And that was one of those things you better not do. You know, to this day, I've still never had to worry about anybody walking up, putting one in the back of my head. Now, after discussing all this bullshit with my mom and my dad and everything, who knows? There may be a retroactive hit out on the old man. It may be passed on to the next generation.
Tommy's podcast will come to an end with someone putting out a hit on me. I think I've talked to too many people.
Brother, I'll tell you what, you have got, honest to God, you have got enough people, including myself. If you set up the flares, I need help, I need y'all now, brother, it would look like the damn 3rd Infantry. It would be a battalion of guys headed your way. Nobody would ever let anything happen to you, brother.
That's the thing, is I don't know if I would know it's coming. I think the people I would piss off. It would be something like some like cyber shit. It'd be like, I don't know, like my laptop would explode.
yeah, they're gonna send a virus in and it's gonna end up.
Yeah, the people who take me, maybe that's there'll be a marker of my success. It'll be I won't be taken out by some thugs kicking down my door. I'll be taken out by like the NSA or GCHQ. And that would be cool. I would be okay with that. I'd be okay if like a Hellfire missile hit my apartment, because that means to me that would be a level of like the podcast success. That like a nation state put out a hit on me. That to me that would be pretty cool.
I've reached Edward Snowden status.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying.
You reached a level of legitimacy that most people only think about,
I mean, I've emailed enough presidents and heads of state that there's no way I'm not pinged up on a server somewhere.
Dude, I got a buddy of mine that works for State Department. He said, if you ain't on a list somewhere, then you ain't doing shit right. And I believe it.
Yeah.
I literally believe it. It's the truth.
Oh, yeah. No, that's not a conspiracy. That's absolutely what it is.
But here's the deal, Tommy. Who wants to live in a closet? I mean, fuck that. I mean, Jesus Christ, dude, it's fun living on the edge. Hopefully we get to do a few more of these because I've got a whole lot more to go along with this. But, I'm gonna throw one here at you. I told you Dad had to legitimize himself. He had to get out of everything. He got out of everything from me. For that, I thank him. Sometimes I curse him because he died. He basically died a pauper. He didn't have anything, and that's giving up a lot for your kid, man. I mean, that's legitimate love right there. I mean, that's the ultimate show of love. You give up everything for your child. So anybody out there that's not willing to do that shit, you know what? Give your kid up for adoption. Move on. But the old man had been out of work. Oh, man. I want to say about 26, maybe 28 months. Now these son of a bitches pissing and moaning about their $800,000 a week benefits check for unemployment. Try this shit. My old man was getting $67 a week. Try to pay rent. He had just bought a new truck, Dodge, red, short wheelbase, slant 6 with 3-speed on the column. Remember that shit like it was yesterday. He was barely making it. Couldn't find work anywhere. Well, come to find out, the guy at the Union Hall, Cotton Grissom, he's dead, gone now, so I ain't worried about anything coming back on this. He had blackballed the old man with the union, and Dad found out about it. Now, I told you in the previous episode about the old man drawing his 38 Super out and unleashing hell downtown Galveston in broad daylight. I remember my dad going to the bedroom, opening the second drawer up on his dresser. He reached in and he pulled out what was, looked like maybe a bath towel of some sort. He unfolds it. It's the 38 Super. Racks one in the chamber. Now I understand what cocked and locked is. Sticks it in his pants. He's gone to kill Cotton Grissom. My mother gets a hold of Dad's best friend who worked with him there at the refineries, a guy named Marvin Kupsa. She called Marvin and she said, Custer's on his way to kill Cotton. He found out that Cotton's been blackballing him. Dad gets down there to the Union Hall, and he's probably about 3 or 4 minutes late. Cotton had done closed the son of a bitch up and left for the day. Marvin catches the old man. Well, Dad's fixing to take off and go to Cotton's house. Marvin intervened on this on my dad's behalf to keep my dad out of prison, because this was one of the times my dad would have screwed up and there's no getting out of this, or he's not going to not get caught. Let me put it that way. The next day, I want to say around noon, old man receives a call from the Union Hall. Lo and behold, his name's back at the top of the board, and there's work for him.
Funny how that works.
Dad ended up going, you look this up, they made a movie in Port Bolivar. It was called My Sweet Charlie. It had Patty Duke, which later on was Patty Duke Aston. She married John Aston, another actor by the name of Al Freeman. And I believe the Channel 13 weatherman was in it. He was playing the sheriff, Dave Ward. God damn it, I knew I'd think of that name. The old man was over there for 2 months working on that movie. He was a Teamster driver. So wherever they needed to go, they got in and they offered him a job going to Yugoslavia, Crna, which Crna is Black Mountains. It's where my grandparents come from. But there was still, I think, so much flack from World War II and the communism and everything that's still over there at that point. Dad told me, he said, if I go, they'll kill me. He said, I don't think I'll ever come back home.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't go, but he went back to work at the refineries after the movie was over with. And needless to say, never did work, never did have any problem working anymore. He retired in 76 and, we moved up here to the country, hence my hillbilly accent.
You have zero accent.
Oh my God, man! I sound like a redneck from hell, or at least wise I think I do.
Dude, I lived in Georgia for 16 years. I lived in southern fucking Georgia for 2 years. You don't have an accent. An accent is when you do not know what they're saying. How about y'all doing, man? Come again?
Oh, okay. So you mean just like when I went down into Lafayette, down into Coonasville, and I couldn't understand what the hell they were saying? That's the accent.
Dude, I'll never forget my first day of college at Valdosta State University. This girl I was friends with, not friends with, became friends with, but I remember the day I met her, we were like 2 doors down from each other. She came up, and I remember she said, "How are you doing, Tommy?" But I had no idea what the fuck. I don't mean like it was a southern accent, like, "How you doing, Tommy?" Where it's like a little. I actually didn't know what she was saying. Like, it was a different language.
Really?
I mean, dude, it's like I had lived in Georgia for 8 years, and I thought I had understood southern accents. Went down to Valdosta, dude. It breaks your mind trying to understand what they're saying. It's insane. It doesn't sound like English.
Well, that's hell, like I said, here I am going on 58, and now I'm trying to learn Serbian. No, I'm not going to say anything other than brate, brother, which I consider you one. And, man, I can only imagine. My dad never spoke any Serbian in the house because my mother, she spoke hillbilly. And there was no sense in him trying to carry on a conversation with a toddler, which now looking back, I wish he had him because I'd love to be able to speak the language. It's all about rolling the tongue and everything else. And it becomes difficult. I get in here and start doing the shit and start repeating back, and my wife will look at me just shaking her head like, why is he in there doing that? Hey, I'm trying to get these dendrites, get them moving.
I'm just kind of thinking about the whole hurricane thing. Man, I bet we're going to see, like, right? Because I imagine if, like, a burial zone started to get earthed up, they would go and they would make a move to maybe move it. But once you're dead, there's no one gives a shit anymore.
Right.
I wonder, and then even as like technology changes and stuff, I mean, I wonder how many like mob burial sites are going to start finding as like tides recede or rise. Like, I'm probably around like New York, New Orleans, like Miami.
Oh God,
they're going to be finding mass fucking graves.
It's the East End, like I said earlier, the East End, the island, it got just smashed. So when we went down 2 weeks after Ike, I had no reference point or any idea where Dad did his business. But I'm thinking, my God, man, I have no idea how long a body will stay in those conditions. I have no idea. Therefore, hopefully for everyone involved, everything's gone by the wayside by now. I don't think, shit that was, like I said, 30s, 40s, 50s, possibly on up into the 60s. And shit, we're talking to 2021 here now. So 60 years at a minimum, 50 years, 60 years at a minimum. Who the hell would they come knocking on the door? I mean, are they going to, would they possibly, after me sitting here opening my mouth up, playing Sandy the Bull Bravado, are they going to come knock on my door? If they do, don't know what to tell them.
Well, it's not only on whose door are they going to go knocking. Who the fuck's going to go do the knocking? There's no one alive that has the bones. So what, are their sons going to come after you for something that they don't even remember to someone who had not? I doubt it.
Had nothing to do. Yeah, it's
who's going to come is it's going to be a historian.
Well, and you know what?
That's what
I would love it.
Yeah,
I would love it. Absolutely would love it. The missus has asked me several times. She said, kind of like you asked earlier, have you ever thought about possibly? And I said, look, the last 20 plus years, one thing I learned after blowing a hole through my leg, you don't know everything about guns. So don't be a smart ass and think you do. You're always going to be a student. The last 21 years I've put into being a student nonstop. So unless they send a Dale Comstock or a Joe Tedeye or someone with a skill level greater than mine, stay at home and, drink your milk of magnesia, whatever you need to do. Enjoy your life. I'm going to enjoy mine. Shit, man, let bygones be good bygones. Everybody's dead and gone now. And if, you got a problem, hit me up on Facebook. I'm not hard to find.
I've often thought, and this is kind of way out there, but like we're talking about like tides receding and climate change, and are we going to find graves? I mean, speaking of which, they just not really climate related, but they found that grave of kids up in that under the school in Canada.
Yes, man, that right there, dude. I tell you what, there's fixing to be some answers having to be given on that shit.
Dude, we're about to learn a new piece of history for everyone that's not listening, and for future listeners. Today's Wednesday, June 30th, 2021. Is apparently they're finding mass graves under these schools in Canada where. Was it like indigenous people or was it foreign immigrants they were forced to go to, and they're finding that?
Well, right now what they're identifying is indigenous. Yeah, but
it's like forced assimilation.
Yes, and I'm like, man, when I heard that, when that news broke, I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. I know our governments are shitty, but at what point in time do we stop with the horse shit like that? I mean,
I think that's just another case of history, man. Unless it's one person killing one other person and cremating the body and dumping the ashes in the ocean, I think everything comes to light. Maybe it's 50 years later with a grave in Galveston. Maybe it's 100 years later with a mass grave in Canada. I don't think that stuff can be hidden, man. It all comes... I mean, even fossils. You could say fossils are graves. We found the murder of a Tyrannosaurus Rex by another Tyrannosaurus Rex 200 million years later. There's a great quote, and I can't actually find who said it. It's just... The quote's from this video of this guy going on this conspiracy about the moon. The entire thing is just insane. But the quote is, the truth is like a fabric... a perfect fabric. It has no missing pieces. It has no seams. It has no stitches. It can't be ripped apart. Meaning that it's this perfect thing that you can do a good part hiding it for a long time, right? I mean, the Nazis, they incinerated the bodies, and then I think it was not the Einsatzgruppen. They had this bone crushing machine that they then dug up the bodies once they realized they were losing the war, so they could grind the bones to a dust. But even then, like, you can't hide it all. Eventually, it's all going to come out. And I think the reason why we eventually hear about it is because there's no one around who has any vested interest in it staying a secret, right? If we found documents about Like JFK, it was a while ago, but it's also still close enough that there's probably a vested interest. Versus like Abe Lincoln, if who the fuck is it's 160 years ago.
Yeah. I don't. Pardon me. I don't think John Wilkes Booth is going to come running up anytime soon.
And no one around it, and no one's kids or even grandkids. Right. So it's. But we'll wrap it up on this point. The idea I had was, we know that there's like a sphere around the Earth, probably like close to like 100 light years in radius now, right? Because that's how long we've had radio signals. So like technically it's very like attenuated and it's faint, but you could go out 100 light years, and if you put up like a radio like receiver, you could pick up like Hitler's speeches or FDR's fireside chats. Like, it's going at light speed forever. Eventually, which also means that just light is going forever. Theoretically, if you went far enough away from Earth and then turned a telescope back, you could, because we know when we look at the night sky, we're not looking at it as it is currently. We're looking at it as it was years and thousands of years ago. Like, so technically, if you could somehow, you'd have to travel faster than the speed of light to get away from Earth in order to do this, I think, yeah. But if you looked back with some hyper alien telescope technology, you could watch famous events as they happened, and not as they were dictated on paper or put out in the news, but as they happened. I mean, you got to imagine in like 1,000 years, there's going to be a new form of history where we look back on Earth and it's like, hey, look, there's like 4 muzzle flashes in Dealey Plaza. There are 4 shooters. Or they're going to see, they're going to look on to 9/11 or some shit, or who killed MLK, and they're going to be going, oh, was this, that? You're going to be able to look back and go, hey, here's the virus leaving Wuhan. Like, there's going to be this sort of unperverted history. And it's
James Earl Ray was innocent.
That's what I mean. It's like they're going to be able to look at it. It's going to. I mean, it won't be for 1,000 years, but eventually, a computer, if the laws of physics allow it, eventually there will be. I mean, we'll use it to look back at and see dinosaurs walking around. But I mean, eventually, you'll be able to zoom in on Dealey Plaza and be like, "Huh, we see the school book depository. Who's over there on the grassy knoll?" And then you could go a little farther out, and you could monitor it again, and so you could, in theory, watch it backwards. You'd be like, we're following that car from the CIA station chief. It's going to be...
Why the hell is he there?
Why is he there? But that's the thing, is like, in order to get to that point in history, or that technological capability, we would probably have transcended, as a species, beyond any sort of grudges or war, and it would probably be, right, we'd be looking back at like cavemen killing each other, and there would be no, I don't know,
1,000 years.
Yeah.
Well, 1,000 years from now, I mean, the way we act now, that's basically what they'll look at us as. Look at these cavemen. Look how they act.
Yeah, and it's right. That's one of the great filters. Is like, because how we act now, it's not a whole lot different than how we acted 1,000 years. I mean, granted, we have a lot of equality. You can't really rape and murder and shit. But I mean, we're still pretty much the same beasts. But with things like viral warfare or nuclear weapons, we're getting to a point where that's like one of the great filters, is like, you sort of have to transcend your animal roots in order to become a spacefaring species, because unlike 10,000 years ago, where caveman mad, caveman take rock and kill other cavemen, now it's caveman mad, cavemen launch intercontinental ballistic missile. And it's a lot different. But
caveman pissed, he gonna let Bao loose at Wuhan.
Yeah, caveman, ching tang tong, it's yeah. And now this podcast has gone completely off the rails in a matter of 3 minutes.
Dude, I don't know where the hell we went and what track we took there at the damn Santa Fe Railroad in Galveston, my brother. This is the shit I love to watch with you.
Yeah, man.
It was your solo rant this morning. I'm up at like 2:30 in the morning and I'm watching Tom. I'm like, fuck yeah, man. Looks
Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah,
Speaking of which, man, I cannot find Leroy Jenkins. I've been trying to find him for over a year.
Really?
I can't
You
find
talking
him.
about the legitimate Leroy?
Leroy Jenkins. God damn it, Leroy. I've been trying to find Leroy. I can't find him.
Wait, what did he say? Something about chicken?
Oh, he says, God damn it, Leroy. 33.33, repeating, of course. God.
Yo.
Chops up. Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins.
Damn it, boy. I tell you what. How the shit did we go from getting laid at 10 years old to doing this shit?
Well, that's what you said earlier when you're like, you look back at your first episode and you were saying like your head's all over the place. Dude, that's that's the reason why I tell you don't worry about that isn't because I'm being nice and I'm like, yeah, don't worry. It's because I legitimately don't give a fuck. There is no. That's what I hate about sort of like produced shows. It's like, well, today we're talking with JR Kesel about the mob and about growing up in a mob. No, it's like you go from that to fucking cutting a guy's dick off to commie killers to am I going to be taken out by a state-sanctioned murder? I mean, because that's what's fun. That's what I loved listening when I discovered Joe Rogan in 2011. That's what I loved about him. I was like, this guy's going to be big. And it's like,
look at him now.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I love about it. So like the idea that we have to stay on one topic, like, no, to me, that's a fate worse than death. If I ever sit here and I'm like, we start talking about aliens and I'm like, let's guide the conversation back towards the mob. I want someone to shoot me in the fucking face because I will be dead inside.
You know what? You've lost your audience when you do.
Yeah,
we're not going to get any goddamn views out of this whatsoever. Everybody's going to go, what the fuck did he just talk about?
I don't give a fuck. Then this podcast isn't for you. Go watch NPR, listen to NPR, do whatever. No, this is not at all. Fuck that. God damn it.
Go to CNN, listen to Rachel Madcow.
Go listen to anything. Yeah, go listen to that dude. I don't give a shit. It's JR. We got to wrap this one up. I got some other errands I got to take care of today. I'll text you when it's up, and we'll set up another one. And
sounds good, brother.
God bless America. God bless everybody listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And fuck yeah, man. Until next time.
Hey, I look forward.
Much love, my brother.
Recording stopped.
Peace.